Hi, I'm Judith Kingsbury from SavvyVegetarian.com. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make some tofu burgers. They're just about the quickest, easiest, and most delicious way to cook tofu. So let's get started making tofu burgers. First, the kind of tofu you should use for tofu burgers is extra firm. After I opened up the package and drained it and rinsed it, I wrapped it up in a cloth for a few minutes to soak up any excess water. You can make tofu burgers either by hand or in a food processor. I usually use a food processor, but I'll show you what to do to make them in a bowl. I use a big bowl so I can get my hands in there. Cut the tofu into 1-inch chunks. Add it to the bowl. The next thing to do is squish up the tofu. You can do that with your hands very easily. Just squish them like that. Or you can use a pastry blender. Or you can use a potato masher like that. But first squish up your tofu, then add everything else to it. Now I'm going to transfer mine to the food processor. If you're using a food processor, you don't have to squish the tofu first. Next thing I'm going to do is chop up the fresh herbs. If you're just using parsley, you need about a cup of loose leaves. Since basil is in season, I'm going to use half basil leaves. If you don't have fresh basil, just add a teaspoon of dry basil. Now if you're going to make your tofu by hand, then you need to chop these up pretty fine before adding them to the bowl. But since I'm not doing that, I'm just going to throw them in the food processor with the tofu. Now for spices, this recipe calls for a teaspoon each of paprika, cumin, and coriander, half a teaspoon of dried thyme leaf, half a teaspoon of ginger, and half a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Additional salt is optional, and onion and garlic powder are also optional. If you use those, add half a teaspoon each. Don't use raw garlic or raw onion because those are too wet and will make the mixture too wet. Put my spices in the food processor. Now this is 1 tablespoon of Bragg's liquid aminos. You can also use soy sauce or low sodium soy sauce. In here I have 1/3 cup of quick oats. You can also use rolled oats. I've got 1/4 cup of fine cornmeal and 1/4 cup of sorghum flour. You can also use wheat flour or spelt flour. You can add that to the food processor as well. Put the lid on and whiz it for 30 seconds to a minute. You just want to whiz it until it clumps up. Turn it out onto a mat. Now if you're mixing these in a bowl, it's a really good idea to combine the dry ingredients, the spices, and the chopped herbs separately. Then add the soy sauce or Bragg's liquid aminos. Then add the mixed dry ingredients. Use a spatula or your hands to do that. And just mix it until it's clumpy like this. It really helps to use your hands to squish it together. This recipe makes 6 large tofu burgers, 3 to 4 inches across. Now if you don't want to cook all the tofu burgers at once, you can keep this mixture overnight in the fridge. You can also cook all of the tofu burgers at once and then keep the leftover cooked patties in a sealed container for several days. Now I'm going to form these into patties. I'll make mine about 3/8 of an inch thick. I usually fry my tofu burgers, but you can also grill them or broil them or bake them. I use a little oil to fry them with. You can broil them without oil, that will work, but if you want to bake them or grill them, you need to brush some oil on the patties or onto the pan so that they'll brown nicely. The fresh herbs really make this recipe, but if you don't have any, feel free to use dried herbs. dried Mediterranean herb mix works well. The point is to add lots of flavor to the tofu. Tofu is very bland, so it soaks up flavor endlessly. All right, we're ready to fry these tofu burgers. Okay, I've got my pan heated up on medium. Brush it with a little coconut oil and add my patties. Press them down on the pan. Now these should get nice and brown and crispy on the outside, and then they'll be firm on the inside. It takes 5 to 7 minutes each side. Okay, let's see how these are doing. Could be a little browner. Give it a couple more minutes. While my tofu burgers finish cooking, I'm going to prep some fixins. If you like onion, a slice of red onion on your burger is very nice. I like avocado on mine. Cucumber slices are good. Serve these on the side or put them in the tofu burger. Red leaf lettuce and some plum tomatoes. It's nice and brown. Oh, it's real brown. Add a little more oil if you like to the pan to brown the other side. Turn the heat down a little bit. Let those cook another 2 or 3 minutes. Looking good. I'll put a bun on here to toast. Now I'm ready to assemble my tofu burger. This is some homemade tofu mayonnaise. That recipe is on the website too. Let's add some lettuce. Add my burger. Add some onion slice, a little tomato. Add a little pepper. Got my avocado and my tomato. Got some cucumbers on the side. Here's my tofu burger all ready to eat. And I'm going to enjoy it so much. Love tofu burgers. Thank you for joining me to make tofu burgers. I hope you enjoy them as much as we do. Happy vegging and see you next time.